Hey Hepro, this is Alex from Rich Stylist Academy. Kind of got an interesting training for you today. I feel that this particular training, it seems like it would be unnecessary, but actually it's really necessary. There's a couple of things that we're going to cover in here, and it kind of stems from the idea of what do I do if I just don't have money? If I'm not making the kind of money that I want to make, but I've got the passion and the determination to be able to grow and to actually change that. So, seems like a simple topic, seems like an obvious answer, but I'm going to demystify it and kind of pull it apart in this training for you today. So, what we're going to cover is four things. We're going to cover we're going to we're going to talk about what determines your value. What determines your value? It's a really interesting topic. Second, we're going to cover how to think. How do you need to think in order to be able to grow? Third, we're going to cover how businesses invest and how they make decisions. And then finally, we're going to talk about decision making and what that looks like in order to be able to make more money ultimately. So let's look at the trap. This is the trap that most entrepreneurs, most hairstylists, hair extension specialists find themselves in. And that is, I need to make more money so that I can grow and invest in the thing, the tools, the new salon space, the new suite, whatever, right? Whatever you want to invest in, you need money to be able to do that. So I need to make more money so I can invest in the thing that I can make more money. Because if you're looking to build out or move spaces or take a class, ultimately you're doing that to be able to learn more, level up with the hopes of making more money. Now, I'm not painting this as it's all about money and that's all that matters in life. Money just gives you more choices. Choices give you a rich life. That's where Rich Stylist Academy comes from. And so being able to grow literally in anything that you want to do, whether it was in an extensionist scenario anyway, a new certification, a new class, new tools, new chairs, new decor for your salon, all of that costs money. So the trap is in this being in this never-ending spiral of, well, I need to make more money so I can invest in the thing that's going to grow my business so that I can ultimately make more money and then invest in it. So it just keeps going around and around and around. Now, most people just stay at the level and accept the circumstance of, well, I just need to make more money and hopefully something will come up. Hope is one of my least favorite words in this context. Okay, it's a terrible, terrible word because it's a terrible plan and it really leads nowhere. So this is the trap that most extensionists find themselves. This is the trap that most extensionists find themselves in. In order to change things, we've got to think differently. So I'm going to invite you as we go through this just to put aside any notions or preconceptions about anything, yourself included, and the way you've been taught about money or thinking and being an entrepreneur and being an entrepreneur. We're going to think differently because your way of thinking so far has only got you so far. This is something that a mentor told Ashley and I many, many years ago. They looked us straight in our face and said, your way isn't working. Why don't you try mine? And that's a really humbling experience for someone to care enough to tell you that your way isn't working. Why don't you try mine? And sure enough, when we listened to that mentor, things in our life changed. So, your way of thinking so far, not good, bad, right, or wrong, but it's brought you here. And so, how are we going to get it to the next level? So, let's talk about how you make more money. Let's get to that. Let's cut to the chase. There's a really key lesson that I'm going to pass on to you on how to make more money. It's actually very simple. Okay? It's a simple idea, not necessarily simply executed, but you make more money when you become more valuable. I'm going to say that again, and if you're taking notes, which you should be, write that down. You make more money when you become more valuable. You make more money when you become more valuable. So that leads us to a new question, which is what actually determines your value? So, what actually determines your value? Because we talk about your worth, charging your value, knowing your value, all these things inside the hair extension industry. So, how do we actually attach a number and find a number for that, for your services, so that you can ultimately make more money? So, there's three things that determines your value. Okay. The first, the need for what you do. That's the first thing. The second is your ability to do it. Your ability to do it. and this is relevant in all areas of life, all careers, literally everything, these three things. The final is the difficulty there is, or there would be, in replacing you. The difficulty there is in replacing you. That's the third thing. Take a screenshot, write these down, pause the video if you need to. These are the three things that determine your value in life, and especially in the hair extension industry. What's an example of this? I'm going to share a really interesting one with you. We all know who this is, hopefully. Okay, this is Beyonce. And Beyonce is arguably one of the most valuable people in the world. She happens to have an hourly rate of about $24 million. Okay? This is an article where she pocketed at least $24 million for a 1 hour performance for this performance that she gave here. Okay? So, safe to say that Beyonce is pretty valuable. Okay, there's a huge need for what she does. There is people that want to be entertained. She's very good at it. Her ability to do it, clearly she's very good at it. And it would be very difficult to replace Beyonce. You could even say that she's irreplaceable. Huh? Huh? Okay. So only the true fans will get that. But Beyonce is irreplaceable in many ways. And so that is what allows her to be worth $24 million an hour and have people paying that. And the demand for that is really high. It's not like there's a lack of people that would want to pay to see Beyonce or to be around her, concert tickets, whatever it might be. So really, really important. Those three things are applicable to her, and she makes a lot of money. Now, on the flip side, let's talk about someone that works in fast food. Okay. So, fast food is one of the lowest paying jobs in the United States. Okay. So, you're looking at anywhere from $10 to $15 per hour, depending on the restaurant, all these different things, $12,000 to $50,000 a year. And obviously, there's people worse off, there's other jobs, all those kinds of things, but just take this as an example. So, let's look at a fast food worker. Is there a need for what they do? Well, yeah, there's a need for what they do. We're looking like it's probably going to be replaced by robots as well, so that's a whole other conversation. But right now, there is a need for what they do, and we need people to be able to make and prepare and serve food in a fast way. Their ability to do it. So I don't know how often you get fast food or when the last time you got fast food was. We don't eat it a ton, but in a pinch, you know, we might come across something. Interestingly, some people aren't even good at getting an order right in a fast food restaurant. Have you experienced this? Where it's like it's very simple, and you would think they do it 100 times a day, and they're not even, in some cases, very good at that. Shocking, right? And then third, they're super easily replaceable. Someone walks out, someone quits, happens all the time. There's plenty of people ready, lined up to be able to be replaced and to be trained really quickly because so much of the process is standardized. They want it to be a replaceable thing. They know that it's going to be replaced. And so, sure enough, these people aren't that valuable. Hate to say it, but that's just the truth. They're not that valuable. They don't make a lot of money. And simultaneously, it's very hard to ascend in the kind of value over a career that you may have. I mean, someone that maybe started in fast food and is trying to work their way up, even in their lifetime, they're probably not going to make more than $100,000 a year. Okay. And so they're not that valuable, unfortunately, based on this formula. Okay. Has nothing to do with them as a person, because I think in many ways, people that sometimes work these jobs don't realize the potential that they would have if they were to follow their dreams or pursue something worthwhile. But right now, in this category, in this profession, the value's just not there based on these three things. Hopefully you would agree with that. Okay? Don't worry about being a bad person, or it's not an attack on anyone personally, or if you know someone that works in fast food, this is just based on these things. That's why they earn so little. Okay? That's truly why they earn so little. So let's look at hair extensions. Okay? Based on these three things. Is there a need for what you do? Well, yeah, absolutely. People want to feel beautiful. You've got people that have lost their hair, people that want to feel more confident. Maybe it's vanity, maybe it's cancer recovery. You've got everything in the world of hair extensions and toppers and wigs and all these kinds of services. So there's a huge need, and the industry shows, a multi-billion-dollar industry shows that there's a huge need for beauty services and especially hair extensions. Okay. Now, your ability to do it, that's going to be a factor here. So how good are you? How good are you really? And there's two skills that you need to master inside of hair extensions for this to be worthwhile. Because the other trap here, and I talk to stylists all the time in this scenario, is that they're really, really good at the technical side of hair extensions, but they're not very good at the business side of hair extensions. And for you to be an entrepreneur, those are the two skills that you need to master: the technical side of hair extensions and the business side of hair extensions. Technical is just being able to do the hair, apply the hair, have a great finished look. Business is being able to charge for it, right? Business is having great consultations. Business is running on systems. Those are business skills that you can learn, just like you learn the technical skills. So the other skills that are really important to play here. And the final thing is, are you really easily compared to other extensionists, right? Have you got evidence of your clients just kind of shopping around? You know that they're just shopping around. You know that they're just comparing you to other people, or they've got all this information about other people that are certified in the same method. Are you easily compared? Okay, it's very hard to compare Beyonce to someone else in that kind of category. Yes, there's big musicians out there as well, but it's a completely different category of experience than what you would get. Okay, so are you easily compared to other extensionists out there? And here's the thing: the extension industry is growing. It's actually accelerating. There's thousands of new styles getting certified every single month around the world. So it's critical that you actually stand out and that you're different and that you're not easily compared to others if you want to be valuable. And by the way, just as a big mistake, kind of going off script for a second, just trying to be the cheapest person around is not a very good strategy. I've talked to stylists when I ask them about their pricing and what's their system or formula for it. They say things like, well, I look around at what everyone else does and I just be a little bit cheaper than that. That doesn't work very well. And sure enough, it attracts clients who just want the cheapest option, and they're usually not that fun to deal with. So anyway, going back to the training. The third thing is the difficulty there is in replacing you. Let's look at this factor for a second. So do you have the same training as everyone else, right? Are you just a one certification kind of stylist, and that's all you've got, that's all you ever need, and that's all you ever wanted to do? Would clients follow you if you moved salons or moved cities or moved states? Or if you raised your prices tomorrow, would you keep all of your clients? Would they stick with you? Really important questions here to be able to answer truthfully, to be able to determine your value. Because these are the three things that go into how valuable you are. And the more valuable you are, the more money you make. Okay, so we've got to work in reverse and go a couple levels deep on many of these different things. So talking about value, you don't get more valuable on accident. Okay, it doesn't just happen. Okay, so you don't become more valuable on accident. There's really only two things that increase your value. And those two things are that you get more valuable with time, okay? But it has to be very intentional, okay? So this isn't the same as like just waiting for something to get better, because things don't get better if you wait. I mean, putting in the time, really going for it, but you're also going through trial and error and pain and hurt and most times expensive mistakes. Okay, so just you're trying new things kind of recklessly. You don't know if it will work. You're still having to figure it out yourself. That will have you get better in time. Okay, not, I'm just being really clear when I say this, you get more valuable in time. Doing the same thing over and over again and hoping that things will change, you're not going to get better in time. Okay, you're just going to stay stuck. The other way that you become more valuable is with money or investing. Okay, because this is just the shortcut. That's all it is. This is coaching. This is guidance. This is the proven path, support, and from that you have certainty around how you want to grow. Okay, you get to skip all the trial and error, skip all the pain. And you know, this is just like, I mean, you've taken a certification, you went to cosmetology school, you can figure out how to, you know, cut hair or do hair or apply extensions by yourself, right? I'm sure you could. You'd probably have to go through a lot of heads of hair and go through a bunch of trial and error, or you can take a class, be taught how to do it properly, and skip all of that. Same thing. It just levels up as you want to advance. Okay. So Ashley paid with time. If you've heard her podcast and you've listened that she had to move 5 different times in 5 different states, rebuilding her business time after time after time, it took a lot of time and it took a lot of determination. She had to figure it out with time because there was so much trial and error and other circumstances around her. It was a painful experience if you've listened to her story. Rich Stylist Academy, the success stories that you may have seen, and if you haven't seen, you need to go check some of them out. they pay with money, right? So they actually shorten the time it takes because they make an investment in themselves. And a fun example I have here from September 2023 is Carly inside of Rich Stylist Academy. Shortly after joining, this is within 30 days of joining Rich Stylist Academy, she posted here and said, just booked a guest for $3,400. What is happening? This is like magic. I joined RSA as a broke bitch a few weeks ago. Now I'm securing transformations in the thousands. So really fun story, but it just goes to show that investing with money and being able to get the cheat codes, get the shortcuts through an education is a much smarter decision, obviously, than going through the trial and error. If you've got time, if you've got no other obligations, if you don't have a spouse or kids or anyone else that counts on you, relies on you, then be my guest in trying to figure it out yourself. Okay. But when you know that there's a better way, it's reckless to be able to go down the path and have to go and figure all these things out for yourself. Okay. Money is the smart investment because you can make more money, but you can't make more time. That's really the big factor here. You can always make more money. You cannot get back the time that it takes to be able to grow. Okay. So, moving on. What happens when you don't have money? Interesting question. What kind of things happen in your life, or what are you faced with, the decisions that you're faced with, when you don't have money to be able to do things, buy things, live the kind of life that you want ultimately? So, I did this very rough graphic, and it says your life. And there's a couple different areas of life that I believe really matter that are affected by money. And the first one is your career. The second here is your relationships. And then we've got choices, your health, and your happiness. Would you agree that all of these things are affected by how much money that you have? I would, for sure. Absolutely. So, on your career side, maybe when you don't have enough money, or you're in this trap of not having enough money, you question your life choices. Many times I see stylists that have just lost their passion, right? They're just not excited about the work that they're doing because it doesn't really equate to much, or they're stuck on the hustle train where they work super hard, but then not for a lot of money. They feel like they should be making more, right? So that's what can happen when you're lacking money in your career. In your relationships, money and financial problems are the number one cause of divorce. So that goes to show that conflict around money and not having enough of it or much of it or being able to make the kind of choices that you want, it can actually affect your relationships. It's very hard to fuel a passionate relationship if you don't have money to be able to go out on nice dates or go on vacations or buy things for each other, all those things that really ignite passion inside of a relationship. If you're trying to get by without those things, it can be really hard. You know, not impossible, maybe, but there's nothing better than a great date night with someone that you really care about or someone that you really love. Would you agree? So relationships is a really big one. Choices. This is a big one for Ash and I. We talk about it all the time. Money doesn't make you happier. It just gives you more choices. And choices make you happier, right? The choice of car you get to drive, the choice of salon you get to have, the choice of clients you want to have, the choice of vacation that you want to go on, the choice of where you want to send your kids to school. All of these choices make you a lot happier. And a lack of choices is really called poverty. It's a big word. You may have different images in your head when I say that, but a lack of choices is really poverty. If you think about people that live in poverty, they have a complete lack of choices. And in fact, in many communities, even yours, your situation may just be that you don't have a lot of choices. If you can't choose to be able to, you know, this grocery over that grocery, organic avocados over non-organic avocados, or avocados at all, um, to tell it like it is, you're in some level of poverty to a degree, and it's not great. So choices are a huge part of your happiness and are certainly affected by money. Let's talk about your health, right? If you don't have much money, you can't invest in great foods to be able to fuel your body. You can't invest in a gym membership. You probably don't have a lot of time to be able to actually take care of yourself, whether it's your mental health, your physical health, the health of the people around you. And usually this has you falling in the trap of working hard versus working really smart. Okay. With extensions and hair extensions, many stylists that I know that are having these $3,000 days, they're doing it with one client. Okay, they're working harder, not smarter. Hard is 10 clients, root touch-ups, busting your butt, skipping meals. Sometimes you're just playing the wrong game. It doesn't have to be like that. And unfortunately, in the beauty and hair industry, many people, old school people that came before us, taught us that that was the recipe for success. Be careful of the advice that you take from certain people. And then your happiness, right? Like if you're not happy, what's it all for? Even if you make a lot of money, what's it all for if you're not happy? And so it's very possible to be really happy and to make a ton of money. Unfortunately, too many people have met people that have a lot of money or look like they have a lot of money, and they're not, at least they don't come across as very nice people. And we establish these beliefs that, oh, well, all people that have a lot of money aren't actually very happy or aren't very nice. I used to be like this. I used to have a lot of cynicism towards people that had a lot of money. I said, well, there's no way that they're happy deep down. Until I met people that are actually really happy and fulfilled in their life and have a lot of money. So the challenge here is that there's many different things, but just one of these falling over usually affects the others. And it can send you into this downward spiral in life where you're lacking in your career, then that comes home and it affects your relationship at home, which affects your choices. And now you're getting divorced and now you've let yourself go because you don't have energy. So they all end up working together and can send you in quite a downward spiral. Maybe you're finding yourself in something like this, or maybe one of these is at risk. Just take a quick little inventory of your life. What's at risk here? Where have you started to notice stress or frustration or um, things not being the way they were or the way they could be? And really, here it's that if you don't change something, just anything in your life, if you don't start to get better, become more valuable, one of these is going to change for you. Because you can't work long hours around chemicals, standing all day, skipping meals, all these kinds of things. You can't do that for very long. Really. You can't. Not well, not sustainably, not happily. And so one of these is going to give. And with the stylists that I've talked to and the stories I've heard, usually sometimes it's the relationship, sometimes it's all of them. Many times they lack passion for what they do. And so one of these will give, and then it will start knocking the others down in time as well. So here's an interesting idea as well. The current skills that you have, we're getting a little mathematical here, but don't let the chart intimidate you because you're smart, you can do hard things, you can figure this out. I'm going to share this with you. There's a cost of ignorance. Many stylists, many people in the world choose to just ignore some of these other things. They don't like talking about their life. They don't like talking about their relationships. They don't like talking about their health, all these kind of things. We just brush it off and we say, hey, well, that's just going on over there. I'm focused on this or I'm distracted on this. There is actually a cost to ignorance. There's a cost to not knowing. If you think about not knowing that you have a disease, that can cost you something long term and short term in many ways. We don't know what's happening to us. So let's talk about money. This line here, this is just an example, but what you're seeing on the bottom are the months of the year. And what you're seeing on the side is a monthly income. That's all you're looking at here. So January, looking at just over 5,000. February, looking at maybe somewhere around 6,000. These different numbers just represent an example of an extensionist income. And in fact, I took this income from an extensionist that I did a call with and plotted it out here. Okay, so this is an example. Maybe this is relevant to you or around about what you would make every single month. And if you don't know what you make every month or you're just kind of winging it, you need this even more. Okay, it's time to pay attention. But you can't just ignore your money for so long. Okay, and that's actually a really big thing. Money doesn't like to be ignored. It doesn't. It only grows when you give it attention. If you ignore it, it's just going to always stay low. So this might be making or could make with the current skills and education that you have. This represents what you could be making if you were to become more valuable, if you were to increase your skills, and if you were to grow. This is $10,000 a month. Now, for us, we talk about this number a lot. We talk about 10K months within Rich Stylist Academy. I'm going to be real with you for a second here. $10,000 a month with hair extensions is the minimum that you should be making. If you're certified with hair extensions and it's been more than 6 months with that certification and you're not making $10,000 a month, you either need to get serious about building a hair extension business or you need to give it up entirely. Just don't worry about it. Like truly, don't worry about it. If you're not making $10,000 a month really comfortably after 6, maybe 12 months of having a hair extension certification, stop worrying about it because it's not going to get better on accident. You either need to get serious about it and change some things and get on a system, or you just need to stop worrying or hoping because it's not going to get better with hope. So 10K months is just where it starts. Many of the styles that actually grow with what we offer inside of Rich Stylist Academy, that's just the base, right? That's actually the minimum. It's a flashy number for some other hairstyles. It's because hairstyles don't make much money. So it's a flashy number. It's good, but it's the minimum that we want to achieve. So if you're already making close to this, I would say, in what way are you making close to this money? Is it with long hours or difficult clients, whatever it might be? But if you're making this even really comfortably, great. What's the next level? Because 10K a month in 2023 is not a lot of money. Certainly not if you've got a family and you like nice things. It's not a lot of money. It won't get you much. So the other thing is that we can't wait for things to get cheaper because they're not really getting cheaper. We just need to get better and make more money. So this is what you could be making. The cost of ignorance that I talk about here is your potential income in the your current income in the blue, your potential income in the green. Here is the missed income. Okay, this is the potential. This is the missed income, and in a very kind of weird way, each month that goes by where you're not making $10,000 a month is actually costing you $10,000 a month. That's the cost of ignorance, right? Every month, even for me, that I don't make $10 million, it's actually costing me whatever I do make. It's costing me $10 million minus what I do make to not know how to make $10 million. As kind of a weird, funny example. But the challenge here is that the opportunity and the missed income, that is time that you can't get back, right? This is the cost of ignorance. People say that ignorance is bliss. That's true if you don't know any better. Okay? If you have no aspiration of ever making $10,000 a month, then that's fine, right? If 5K a month for you and where you live is great, then by all means, I am happy for you. I would never make you out to be inferior as a person or as a provider or as an entrepreneur if you never want more in life. But if you do want more in life, this is painful. Okay? This is hard. And ignorance is not bliss, it becomes poverty. And so not knowing how to make $10,000 a month is actually costing you the difference. Okay? Whatever the difference is, whatever these green numbers are month over month, that's what it's costing you to not know how to make $10,000 a month. Because when you do, this becomes your baseline. That becomes what you're used to, and that becomes your income. And you can just grow up from there. Switch gears a little bit. Let's talk about decision making. This is an area that I find so many hairstyles, hair extensionists just have a challenge with. And it's really interesting. But this is applicable to everyone. Most people don't get ahead in life because they don't make decisions. Decisions really equal your destiny and determine how far you go. And so, as an entrepreneur, I'm just going to give you some points and some tips here on really making decisions. It's really important if you want to grow your extension business that you start making decisions like a business. Okay? Start making decisions like a business instead of making decisions as an individual. In your personal life, in your individual life, you make decisions a certain way. And in your business life, you need to do it a different way as well. Many businesses, you're just running the numbers, right? You're just looking at any kind of investment and running the numbers of what could be better. If you were looking at a certification, right? You've probably, if you're watching this, had this scenario before. You've said to yourself, if I invested $1,000 in that certification and I learned how to do hair extensions, instead of making $100 an hour with the services I'm making now, I could probably make $300 to $500 an hour. Which, based on that, you said, okay, if my clients, or if I just had a few clients making $300 to $500 an hour, and I was doing $1,500, $2,000, $3,000 with hair extensions, that would be a huge return on investment on the $1,000 I invest one time to be able to get certified. Some version of that you probably made when you got certified with hair extensions. Now, how far and how that worked out for you, that's a different story. That might be why you're here right now. But that's probably the decision-making process that you went through. So I say that because you want to separate the way that you make business decisions from the way that you make personal decisions. If you're trying to bring in your personal emotions into your business decisions, you're kind of not in a good place. It's not going to work out very well for you because that's not how big businesses make big decisions. Okay. And it's important. Quite honestly, I put this in here because I've done hundreds of calls with hair extensionists, and this isn't a personal attack on anyone in particular, but you just got to grow up. You got to grow up, make decisions, and be an adult. Make them on your own or with a partner if that's what you have and what goes into your decision making. But waiting for someone to come and save you or make these decisions for you is not a recipe for success. If you want people to make decisions for you, you should get a job. You would love a job. Okay. If you're afraid of making decisions, just get a job. And I truly say that with love. I don't say that to be patronizing. If you hate making decisions, just get a job. They make the decisions for you. It's awesome. You have to trade your freedom for it. You have to be someone's bitch in many cases, but just get a job because you don't have to make decisions. So if the pressure of making decisions is too much for you, a job is a really, really good option. And there's literally no shame in doing that. Seriously, it's fine. And truly, like, if my Australianism or whatever is coming across as patronizing, I don't mean it for it to be. I don't mean for it to be. But I would say, like, don't be playing, but then in the shadows be acting like an employee that wants to be told what to do and doesn't want to make decisions. Okay? You won't really experience true freedom until you're making your own decisions. Decision making is a muscle. So the more decisions you make, the better at it you become. It's really, really great. So it is like a muscle in that sense. If you have a spouse that you make decisions with, it's really important to identify. This is something Ashley and I talk about a lot. Are you asking for permission or for someone to make the decision for you, or are you asking for support? Okay. And I would just look back on maybe some of the decisions that you've asked your spouse about in the past. Were you looking for permission and validation, or were you just looking for support? Permission and validation is, what do you think? Should I do this? Um, am I going to be okay? Can I blame you if it doesn't work out, right? Because you helped make the decision. Or are you just asking for support? Hey, I feel really good about this. I want to do it. I've done all the research. I just want your blessing to be able to move forward with it. Those are two really different things in relationships and in decision making and in business. The other thing with decision is that on the opposite side, you've got indecision. What happens when you just don't make decisions? It's called indecision, and it creates stress and anxiety. Have you ever put something off for long enough where it just, literally keeps you up at night? Not making the decision to have the conversation can create a lot of stress and anxiety. So if you're feeling stress, overwhelmed, anxiety, it's probably because there's a decision that you need to make that you just haven't made. You're trying to put it off thinking that it'll just go away. It's likely not. And even if that decision does go away or disappear, the problem that you were faced with in the beginning to be able to make that decision for how it came across, that's just going to reappear. Okay. I said before, think like an entrepreneur, think like a business owner. Entrepreneurs make bold decisions. And as I said before, if that just intimidates you, you should just consider getting a job. I say it with love. I'm not going to say it again. But literally, my wish for you here is that you just rip the band-aid off and stop kidding yourself, because it's actually probably doing more damage in the long run to you and the people around you. Okay. If entrepreneurship isn't cut out for you, which not everyone's cut out for it, I think everyone can be grown and molded into an entrepreneur for sure. I think they are made, not necessarily born. But if you're not willing to face things like decision making, you should just stop kidding yourself and just look at other options, and it's completely fine. Okay. The skills in being an entrepreneur and a business owner can be learned. I know that for a fact. Okay. You just have to tell the truth. Look at it, look at the results, tell the truth of how you want to fix it. Here's what doesn't work with decision making or growth or becoming more valuable: just waiting for things to get better. It doesn't happen. Okay. Many times people need to wait for things to get worse. They're more motivated by pain than they are by pleasure. So they actually wait for things to get completely terrible. The relationship's on the line. They've got no money. They've got no choices. Then they want to decide to change something. Okay. The challenge is when people are in like a comfort zone and they've been there for a while, they get afraid of changing anything because they don't want to leave their comfort zone, even though it might not be the best scenario for them, or they're not making the most money that they could be making. So trying to save your way there, that's the other thing on classes or education, whatever it might be. You can save your way to something, but you're just trading your time. Okay. And the challenges with saving is that something always just comes up, right? As you increase and usually create this nest egg or whatever, something comes up. And so the bold action, and we'll talk about investment and how businesses make investments, they don't really wait until they've got the cash ready to go. In fact, that's one of the worst ways that a business would ever invest in something. You usually don't know how to make the money required to get the thing that's going to help you make the money. That's that trap that we talked about before, right? Well, I need the money to get the thing so that I can make more money to get the thing so that I can make the money to get the thing. You just keep going around in this spiral and it's just really staying stuck. It's just like standing in one place and turning around and around. The other thing that doesn't work is doing nothing and hoping things change. Okay? That's just, I mean, hopefully, if you're watching this video, you've waited long enough, hence clicking on this video or finding something that appealed to you, to be like, hey, you know what? This isn't actually changing by myself. And if you don't believe that, maybe you need to wait some more. Maybe you need to go another year or two and make the same kind of money and maybe hope that things change. Okay? But doing nothing and hoping tends to not do anything. Getting financial advice is the other thing that doesn't work from people who don't have money. Many hairstylists out there, many old school hairstylists, in fact, love them, but just it's very interesting. And I say this from the perspective of someone that's done hundreds of calls for Rich Stylist Academy and talked to a stylist that's been in the industry 30 years, but is still only making maybe $6,000 a month. What that tells me is that time doesn't make things get better. It doesn't. And I've done enough of those calls to believe that at this point. So, getting a financial advice from people who don't have money or don't have the life or results that you want. If you are taking advice financially, relationships, health, whatever, right? You would never take fitness advice from a fat personal trainer. And so it's really important that if you're taking advice from one, that you would actually want their results as well. You don't have to agree with everything they say, by the way. You might have completely different beliefs on many things. But if you want the kind of results that they've gotten, it's worth taking their advice. But on the flip side, you don't want to take advice from people that you wouldn't want their results. This is the irony of like $60,000 a year. If they were really good at financially planning, they probably wouldn't be making, $60,000 or $100,000 a year. They'd probably be so rich that they wouldn't even have time to be able to spend with you. It's the irony of financial planners. So, the other thing here on the waiting game is, I'm recording this in October of 2023. There are some people that are still waiting from 2021, depending on what you know, for the price of houses to go down. They're still waiting. Like in 2021, they said, well, you know what? We'll just wait long enough before we buy a house. And here we are, huge interest rates, historically high, and they might just still be waiting, crossing their fingers. In the meantime, they haven't grown their income. Okay. And if they were to just grow their income, they might be able to leave their house. Don't know if that's your situation, but that's something I think about all the time. Let's talk about investing. Let's talk about money. Let's talk about how people and businesses actually grow and invest in their future. The number one way is using credit. Okay, simple as that. Big businesses borrow money. It's actually not financially smart to invest in your growth or invest in something that's going to give you an ROI using cash in the bank. The number one trap that I see most hairstylists are stuck with is they can't invest in their business and in their growth because they're looking at the one bank account that's the same bank account that they pay for their groceries in. Okay, those things need to be separate. Yes, that's a financial literacy conversation. If you're not even there, you need this even more. But the side of you need to be able to have the freedom to grow and stretch and invest in your business without feeling like you're sacrificing anything in your personal life or taking food off your table. Okay, so credit cards, credit, business credit cards, savings, borrowing money from friends or bank accounts or banks or your family. These are all great options for investing. If you live in the United States or any kind of great, well-established country, you're fortunate enough that you have systems in place to be able to support and grow small businesses. Okay, the challenge here is that you're in a business because you're an entrepreneur, even if you're a commissioned stylist, by the way, but you're thinking like an individual. And so you need to be able to invest in things using other people's money so that you're not stuck thinking that, oh my gosh, I should just put all this cash forward. Now, if you're really cash rich, cash heavy, then that's great. Okay, like good for you. If that's been your philosophy with money, I'm not demonizing that in any way. And if you like paying for things in cash, that's great. But to be limited, this is really the important point, to be limited on choices and investing in things because you don't have the cash or the credit, that's the trap that I'm saying that you want to be able to avoid. Okay. If you like just investing for things in cash, then great. But if you can't invest in something because you don't have the cash and you think that, well, I'll just wait until, that's the trap that I don't want you to find yourself in. Okay. In many ways, many experts actually say it's irresponsible to not have credit, to not have lines of credit, credit cards, because you don't have money or funds in case things go wrong. If you think about whether you're in the scenario now or not, let's say you had a private suite and it had like water damage or it got broken into or something went wrong. If you don't have credit to be able to fund or support or keep the lights open or keep the doors open, whatever it might be, keep the lights on rather, and you're having to like keep this emergency cash fund that is actually vacation, but if the business needed it, you would put it there anyway. That's a trap, right? That's actually not very smart to be sharing those kinds of bank accounts or numbers. So you always want to be able to have the freedom and the backup through credit, through leveraging other people's money. It's a really important principle in business and in growth. I love business credit cards. I think it's really, really amazing to see the options out there. Many stylists and entrepreneurs just don't realize that these options are out there for them. Business credit cards are great because if you've got an LLC, that's awesome. By the way, if none of this is making any sense to you, you actually need this even more because you may not be as financially literate. I say that lovingly, but you may not be as financially literate as you need to be able to grow and to be an entrepreneur. Okay. And all that says is that you probably need even more help than you may have thought. So business credit cards are great because you can apply for them and get them without an LLC. If you've got an LLC, that's awesome. Some people have an LLC but not an EIN. I would encourage you to get an EIN. It's really free from the IRS and you get it instantly. But if you need to, and if you're a sole proprietor, you can get a business credit card even without an LLC. Okay. As a disclaimer, this is not financial advice, just giving you some guidance on what could potentially work. Talk to a professional, blah, 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 all that good stuff. There's usually higher limits on business credit cards, which is great. So if you want to expand or invest in an education or buy some new tools or material, or the number one thing for hair extensionists actually is buy new hair, right? The client comes in, you need to be able to have hair for them or order their hair really quickly without having to wait on a deposit from them in many cases. So if you're buying hair using cash or using a debit card, you are making one of the biggest mistakes I see stylists make. So this is the other way where it's really essential to have business credit cards to be able to even just pay for the hair extensions. It's super, super important. And back to financial literacy, really important to have separate spending for your personal and your business account. Okay, so you don't want to be putting product, color, hair on the same credit card that you use to pay for your groceries. It's just one of the worst things, and it sets you up for a disaster with taxes and with income, with the growing anything. Okay. Some of my favorite business credit cards, just to give you as kind of a resource, is I really love Chase Inc. business credit cards. Now, you need a 680 credit score for these. If you don't have a 680 credit score, this just became way more important. Okay. And so you can either say, well, I don't have a 680 credit score, so I can never get a credit card, therefore I'm not going to grow a business. Yeah, if you want to believe that, you can, but it actually just shows how much more important this whole thing is. So I love the Chase Inc. business credit cards. The Business Unlimited, the Business Cash are two recommendations that I recommend all the time to hair extensionists. There's a 750 cashback welcome bonus. It's 0 interest for 12 months. So if you're looking at building out something, ordering some products, investing in your education, this is a really great option. On the American Express side of things that I also really love, I love the American Express Business Blue or the Business Cash Card. It builds points with American Express. These points can be transferred to airlines and get free vacations, all that kind of stuff. I got trainings on that inside of Rich Stylists Academy. Too much to go into now, but these two cards are great. But honestly, any major credit card is good. The only thing that you want to stay away from are like store credit cards, like at Macy's or Marshalls or TJ Maxx, all that kind of stuff you want to stay away from. You just don't get much bang for your buck there. But any major credit card is good. If you were to search best business credit cards for small businesses, you're going to see Capital One, you're going to see Citi cards. Any of those are really, really good to have as a business owner and an entrepreneur. Okay, any one of those. If you can't business cards for some reason, right? Maybe Usually there's actually no reason. You may get rejected from one because your information was incorrect. Look up any article that says how to get a business credit card with a small business. And there's articles from the Points Guy or other really great websites, even things like do and what to enter to be able to get a business credit card, even as a sole proprietor, okay? Or someone that doesn't have a really well established business. But if you can't, at the end of the day, you need money to be able to grow your business. We all started at that one point where we were using personal credit cards to be able to grow our business. And so look at personal cards. The Apple Card's a really great option, gets you an instant approval. And there's other really good ones out there from Discover, American Express, all the brands that I listed before. Credit cards aren't bad. All right. If you're coming to this with the conception of like, oh my gosh, he's talking about credit cards and they're bad, you are you've been lied to basically. What's bad is reckless spending. Okay, with cash or credit, doesn't matter, right? Credit cards just get a bad rap because a reckless spender racks up a bunch of money on them, can't pay it back, and then all of a sudden credit cards are bad. The credit card wasn't the bad thing. Okay, the person was the bad thing. The reckless spending was the bad thing. So if you can't control your spending, you don't have a credit card problem. You've got a self-control problem that needs to be looked at. Whole different conversation. Okay. So don't like put credit cards in the category of they're bad because someone or you spends rec. By the way, if you go and apply for credit cards, um, I've seen people, it can be finicky sometimes, especially on the business credit card side of things. Usually on personal, there's not too many issues. Sometimes on business cards, 9 times out of 10, it's an address discrepancy. So like maybe if you're using an LLC, you put your the address of like your salon or your suite where you work, but actually you need your personal address on file. So just look into that, read a couple of articles. Most declines are usually from a mismatch, or depending on your credit score, which is something to check before you apply and then check the card and what the usual recommended score is. Just look for those things before. If you've got any questions, I mean, call me or message me or leave a comment or just Google it, quite honestly. This isn't a big, mysterious world, but there's plenty of information out there on it. You also want to research other options if you have a low score right now. Credit options or credit card options for a, 600, 620 credit score, that kind of thing. Now, if you have a bad credit score, if you got a score in the 500s or something like that, this is way more important because fortunately and unfortunately, okay, in this country, United States, if you have a low credit score, you're kind of screwed for many things, to be quite honest. You can't buy a house. You just can't. Not easily, anyway. And not on good terms or with good rates if you try to. Okay. The other thing is that when you have a low credit score, even renting or getting a new car, it really is a bit of a death trap. And so that becomes more importantly to change that, especially if you're an entrepreneur and you've got a low credit score. It can just work against you in so many awful ways. So that's run from in this case. It's actually more evidence that, hey, you better figure this stuff out, because not figuring it out, and it can change really quickly, but not figuring it out is not helping you, and it's just going to hurt you for longer. Okay, so that's my advice. If you not getting approved, you don't have a credit, a good credit score, or it's low, not knowing how credit works actually really affects you in the long run. I've got a lot on it, not something I'm getting into in this particular call, or in this particular video rather, but it's a really, really important thing to be able to fix and grow, especially if you want to grow as an entrepreneur. But even outside of your work and your career, a low credit score just costs you so much money because you get terrible rates on houses, on cars, on apartments, and it really limits your opportunities in many ways. Final thing to talk about here is let's talk about waiting. Let's go back to this decision-making thing, this avoidance behavior that so many people have. Things don't get better on accident. Okay? If you don't take care of a plant, it dies. Right? Or it grows weeds in a garden, for example. If you don't exercise and take care of your health, you get fat. Plain and simple. And you get diseases. So things don't really get better on accident. They only get better when you actually give them attention and work on them. If you don't take action, things just get worse in your business. If you're not growing your business, if you're not getting new clients in, things are just going to get worse. Okay? They tend not to stay the same. And we get into this trap of feeling like, well, if I just keep things the same, and I don't change anything, they'll actually just keep coasting along. Stuff's getting more expensive. The world is changing. Things are always changing. And so trying to play the just stay the same game is not a long-term successful plan, right? Because we're only getting older. We can't get our time back. And so if you don't take action, kidding yourself or lying to yourself thinking that things will stay the same and I'll be fine, see how long you can tell that lie to yourself for, just to be really honest. Okay? Avoidance and avoiding decisions, avoiding focusing on something, avoiding your credit score, avoiding your financial situation, it's easier in the short term. Okay, that's the only benefit. Avoidance is easier in the short term, but it's worse in the long term, and eventually you're going to have to face it. Decisions. Unfortunately, at that point, you're probably going to be forced to make decisions instead of making them from an empowered place. So it's easier in the short term, but it's worse in the long term. And leveling up requires an investment. You hear that all the time. People saying how they leveled up and how they invested in this and it helped them grow. There's not many success stories out there where you hear them say, you know what, I just waited and did nothing in my business long enough, and all of a sudden I made a ton of money. It's not really what happens. You probably haven't heard a story like that. There's not really another thing in the world that gets better if you just do nothing. Maybe outside of like stocks, which if you ever want to invest in stocks, you need a lot of money anyway. So the only time that waiting, doing nothing, not touching anything is in the stock market. And there's probably not a lot of stock traders watching this right now, so it's kind of an irrelevant point. Most times with avoidance and waiting, it's just fear, right? It's just, I'm scared. I don't know what will happen. It's the first time I'm doing something like this. It's totally normal, but you have to push through that fear if you want the results that are going to be outside of your comfort zone. I said it before, things get more things get more expensive, things are only becoming more limited. New stylists are getting certified, right? So that's the other trap that a lot of extensionists make is they just think, well, I'll just keep what I've got. All right, I've got clients, I'm making 6K a month, I'll just keep it like that, I'll just see how things go. Well, guess what? New styles are getting certified. It's becoming more competitive. And so all it takes is for them to stand out and for the client to go to them instead of you, and now you've lost it, right? Your income's gone down. So waiting, again, is a mistake because things get more expensive, they get more limited, and it becomes more competitive. Okay? The right time doesn't really exist. That's the other thing that people are waiting for. Well, I want to do something, I want to change something. I'm just really waiting for the right time. I'm really busy right now. I got a lot going on. Guess what? You're always going to be busy. You're always going to be busy. Hopefully, you just get a different quality of being busy, right? So the right time doesn't really exist. And yet we kid ourselves into thinking, well, maybe I'll just wait until the right time because things don't really feel right now. I feel like this isn't the right time. It's never going to feel like the right time. I can promise you. Okay. After seeing people make decisions, not make decisions around investment and education, it's never really the right time. In fact, many indicators point to that it's a less ideal time, but it's a must if they want to be able to grow. So waiting for the right time is just a lie that we tell ourselves, really, and it keeps us stuck. And it feels comfortable. It feels good. Oh, I'm being smart by waiting. It's a recipe for disaster. Things don't change. Can't tell you how many stylists that I've sort of followed the journey of, and I'll have a call with them or have a conversation with them. We look at things, they really love it, they can see it helping them, but they just wait because it doesn't feel right then. And it's purely just a timing thing for them. 6 months down the line, nothing's changed. And so it's like, well, what timing, what divine timing are you hoping for will come? And again, I may have said some things in the session that maybe rub you the wrong way. I'm just trying to be the truth teller here. Too many people are coddling themselves with all these different lies and pretending like things are okay when they're not, right? And I'm here to point out the hole in the sinking ship that may be taking you down. And one of those things is that the right time doesn't really exist. And the final thing, and this just pains me, is that hope is really cheap. I'm just going to hope for things get better. Well, hopefully in the future I'll do this. Hopefully this will happen in the future. Hopefully the new time will come. It's crazy. Okay, if you're using words like hope or wait or one day, these kind of aspirational thoughts, that they feel so they're very respected in our culture, right? People love like, oh, hope that works out and hope. It's so cheap. because it just does nothing, but it kind of gives you a pass and makes you feel good in the short term, um, as to why you can't have something or can't do something. So hope is a really cheap word. It's a really it's just not a word to be using in business, because while you're hoping for things to change, someone else is actually taking action. Okay, and they're bettering themselves, and they may be your competition. So couple different directions here that we went with this, but hopefully we covered those things that I shared at the start in the direction that we wanted to go. And hopefully you've had some kind of breakthrough across many different areas: decision making, the credit card stuff, the investing, whatever it is, determining your value and increasing your value. My wish for you is that now you know how entrepreneurs fund their business, you know what makes people increase their value. Okay. You look at any stylist, any extensionist, any salon that is making hundreds of thousands of dollars a year, and you ask those three questions that we went through before, and you put them through the value equation, I guarantee it won't be a mystery as to why they're so successful. Okay. When you have money available through credit cards or funding and you get this stuff in place, you'll sleep so much better at night knowing that the money is there if you need it, or knowing that you're making decisions to be able to grow your future. You got to think and act like an entrepreneur. Okay. That's the biggest thing. We got to get out of the state of hoping or wishing for something to come and save us or things to get better. Entrepreneurs take action. They take bold action, and they usually can take some messy action and figure things out as they go. If you're waiting for things to be perfect and for you to be able to see the future and know exactly what's going to happen, you're going to be waiting for a long time. Okay. So take bold actions, rewatch some of the session if you need to. I'm an open book for finding out about Rich Stylist Academy, how to make 10K months, or any of the topics that I covered in this session. You can leave a comment. You can send me a message on Instagram. Would love to hear from you and hopefully support you in your goals and dreams inside of being an extensionist and growing a big extension business. Until next time, this is Alex King signing off, and I'll see you hopefully inside of Rich Stylist Academy soon.